So today what I'm going to be covering is how you can tell the difference between a penny black that's worth £10 and a penny black that is worth £10,000. Now, up front, if just want to say if you're a specialist philatelist, you're not going to hear anything you haven't heard before or don't already know. This is really a beginner's introduction to how you determine the value of a penny black. Now, the penny black is an iconic little piece of paper that changed the world. When it was introduced for official postage use on the 6th of May 1840, it began a communications revolution and encouraged millions of Victorians around the world to learn to read and write. Obviously, it's also become an obsession with millions of stamp collectors around the world. But the first thing you need to know about the penny black is that it isn't a rare stamp. Over 68 million of them were printed before it was replaced by the penny red a year later. However, most of them were used for what it was designed for, which is to be posted, and most people threw away the letter, so most of them are no longer with us. However, there is still estimated to be over 1 million penny blacks still survived today. So it's not a rare stamp at all. And it is obviously the most coveted stamp in the world, the most collected stamp, and as such it has much more value than any other stamp with those sorts of print quantities. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how you tell the difference between a penny black that has little value and a penny black that could have considerable value, and it's all about the condition. So these are the condition factors you need to look at on your penny black to determine whether it has value or not. The first thing is whether it was used for postage, which would mean it will have a cancellation mark on it, or if it's mint, which would mean it's never been used for postage. Now, obviously, mint examples are far rarer. Now, back then, most were used for postage, and very few mint examples survive today. So, if you have a mint example, it is worth considerably more than a used example. The next thing you need to look at is the physical condition of the stamp. Now, things such as tears, creases, and marks on the stamp will considerably reduce its value. The next up is the margins. Now, back then, this was before perforations, and these stamps were all cut from sheets by postal workers using scissors or blades. And because of that, most of them, don't have full margins. It's quite common to see penny blacks with 3 or even less margins intact. And really, if you have large margins at each side, all 4 margins, then that will increase its desirability and value considerably. Now, for mint examples, the biggest factor is actually all about the gum on the back of the stamp. Now, if your penny black has no gum, it is worth a fraction of a mint penny black with all of its gum on the back. And the reason for that is that it is very, very rare to find a mint penny black with all the gum. Now, what you will find most of the time is there will be a hinge mark where the stamp was previously attached to a stamp album on a hinge, and that's normal to find. Now, the mint examples that you'll find which have all the gum all generally were released by the postal museums in the past. The cancellation for used examples is key to its value. Now, part of that is how nice the cancellation looks and how clear it is, and what kind of Maltese cross cancellation, which was used at the time, it has. The certain Maltese cross cancellations are much rarer. They came from certain post offices where very few exist today, and they are worth much more. Now, that's not something a beginner could possibly hope to know without considerable research. And the final factor also requires a lot of work. I mean, there's guides online now to how you can determine what printing plate your penny black comes from. but it will take quite a bit of experience and work to learn how to do that. There were 11 printing plates in total used to print the penny black, although the first printing plate was repaired because it wore out quickly. So it split between plate 1A and plate 1B, and then after it's 2 to 11. There are certain printing plates where the print quantities were much lower and the survival rate much lower, and therefore they have a higher value. And the highest value printing plate is the notorious plate 11, which is very difficult to find, where only 168,000 of the 68 million were printed in that plate. So now let's take a look at an example of a £10 penny black, and I might even be generous in saying it's a £10 penny black here. This one's currently for sale on eBay. Frankly, it's not a pretty thing to look at. As you can see, there's only 2 margins that are intact on this stamp, and some of the stamp design is actually missing at the bottom left. The stamp will probably have more condition faults that I can't see from just the image online, and only when you see it in your hands you'll realise that there's more wrong with it than you first knew. It's on sale at eBay for £10, and frankly it isn't worth any more than that. And the reason for that is that examples in this condition are common. They're found in many boyhood collections, and they're of very little interest to most collectors, because most collectors who are looking to spend some money on their collection wouldn't really find this satisfactory for their collection. Now, this penny black is the real deal, and this one, in my opinion, is worth at least £10,000 and probably more. It's incredibly rare to find a mint penny black in this quality. I mean, very few mint penny blacks exist because 1 penny was a lot of money in 1840 and is worth more than £1 in equivalent value, and therefore most were used for postage. So it's very difficult to find mint examples. This one also has its original gum on the back, which is very, very difficult to find, and the gum is clean. There's also no condition defects. It has large margins, as you can see, all 4 margins in good size. And finally, it comes from one of the rarer printing places, from plate 9. And plate 9 accounted for just 5% of the total number of penny blacks printed. So it's a hard printing plate to find in this quality. The stamp also comes with an independent certificate of authenticity. Now, I would always recommend, if you have a penny black that you think has value, that you send it for an independent certificate to give it its value. And I would recommend the British Philatelic Association or the Royal Philatelic Society, where their certificates have great respect in the market and add value to your stamp. And they'll also check and be able to plate the penny black for you, which is, as I said, a practice that takes a bit more education before you be in a position to do that. That was your introduction on how you determine whether a penny black has value or not. If you think you've got a penny black that has value and you'd like to find out more, reach out to me in the contact details below, and we'll have a look for you and let you know. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak soon. Goodbye.